Well, speaking of TV shows and movies, we have Matthew's movie picks. Now, what's the pick for you today?
So the pick that we've got this time around, because we're getting into that spooky season, everybody's looking for some horror films to watch. I've always been I've been a huge fan of the classics, Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, whatever. But everybody knows all of those. So let's talk about a film from that time period in those same veins that nobody knows. It is a film called Vampire, but some people pronounce it Vampyr because of the way it's spelled, which is, I
Mm.
believe, Vampyr, Vampire.
Vampire.
It Yeah, it's a German and French combination film that was directed by a Dutch guy, and it came
Mm.
out in 1932. So it was one of the first, certainly not the first, but one of the first vampire movies to have sound. But since it's in German, you got to read it with subtitles anyway, so what does it really
Yeah.
matter? Um, it's such a bizarre movie because it was directed by the same guy who did The Passion of Joan of Arc, which at the time was considered one of the greatest movies ever made. Of course, now we've had a lot more movies since then, but at
Right.
that time it was considered one of the best. And his follow-up movie was Vampire, and it was this huge flop. However,
Mm.
people are going back to it now and starting to discover a lot of things that they didn't notice about it. It's very one of these movies that the whole thing almost feels very dreamlike.
Mm.
They do a lot of effects like shadows just walking around with no people attached to them and stuff that
Mm.
nowadays you'd think was just CG, but back then you're like, well, how did they do that with that
Right.
kind of technology in 1932? It is a very bizarre film, and it's one of those films that when I left it, I sat there and get, did I like it? Did I not like it?
Mm.
I don't really know, but it's certainly a interesting film to watch in the way that it gets your mind a little bit more open, and it's very different than any other kind of film, particularly during that age that you would see.
Yeah, I feel like as a filmmaker, it'd be good to go back and check some of those movies out just to get an idea of what originally scared people and what worked and what didn't work then. But also, those movies tend to be a little bit more scary than some of the modern movies.
Sure.
Just I don't know whether it's the white and black or the way that they use certain things like the shadowy effects and stuff. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's just there's something about it that about the white and black in particular that made it more scary. And I guess because it didn't seem like it was here, if things are when things are in color, it's different, and it kind of feels like, well, you see color every day, but when it's
It has
white
an
and black,
otherworldly feel.
yeah, right. So yeah, make sure y'all go check that out, Vampire or Vampire.